show you a couple pictures of some fish that we have pulled out of there. Right here is a perch that is actually in the system right now. I think it might be a state record, I'm not sure. There's a tilapia right here. This was our average size after about 8 months or so, 7 months. And I made a mistake. I should have harvested sooner, and so I did have a little bit of stunting. Here's a couple of little ones that I've pulled them out and weigh them quite a bit.
What does stunting mean?
Pardon me?
What do you mean by stunting?
Not enough growth space. I should have pulled more fish out of it as I was going.
So then
It's not all about food either. You can have a little bit of beauty.
So they're in there, but they're not growing anymore? Is that...
Basically, the way fish work in a fish tank is they grow to their capacity, and then if there's not enough space, they won't grow any bigger. So at one time I had too many in there, and I came out there one day and they're all coming to the surface of the water and they're all gulping. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys? And then I started thinking, oh, they're gulping. What do I do if I'm out of there? So I went and got my air compressor and pumped air in there and pulled out a few, and then I did some tests, and I realized, I was like, okay, I just got too many fish in here. And so when I pulled out some of the big boys, all of a sudden the other ones just went, I mean, they grew like overnight. So that's something you got to pay attention to, definitely. It's management type of thing. And that's the other thing about setting up your tank. My tank in this room is very hard to access, and so that was probably why I was lacking. So my tank is right here, and I have since then removed this bed because of that. Got tired of hitting my head. So I'd get down there and try to do my work, and it was somewhat tough. Here's the little greenhouse that it's actually tucked into, so you can see it's fairly small.
So if you had a couple of those IBC, you're growing a couple different vegetables, and you got maybe a couple different fish types, and how much per day time are you spending on that? I mean,
well, actual work.
Once it's rolling.
Once it's rolling, I mean, 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do. I mean, there was times where, oh shoot, I need to do this, but in maintenance and things like that. But if you were just during the week in a hurry in the morning, I'd walk by it on my way out to the truck, and make sure, everything, temperature was okay and all that. And if it was I got on a schedule about every Friday or Saturday, I would do a chemical test and check my chemicals. And so I'd spend probably about a half an hour on the weekends, maybe. And then the harvesting, I think that was the most time, was, like all of a sudden, wow, we got all these vegetables, now we got to work. That was the most work, was the harvesting the fish and harvesting the plants, besides building the unit, building the structure. And that's why I love those IBC containers. I put that IBC container that I showed you in this picture here, I put that together 2 days ago. Took me, I already done it, I already did the plumbing, but it wasn't put together. And I set it up together, had gravel in it, and it was running in 20 minutes. If I was to build it from scratch, now that I know what I'm doing, I can build it in less than an hour, probably about an hour, hour and a half. Set it up another hour. So in about 2.5, 3 hours, I can have one of those running. So that's why I thought, well, maybe a little similar might be what people would want.
Cool.
Here's the fish tank. So you can see it's just it's an old farm tank, basically. And a cooler. I use this cooler here for my babies that come in.
You mean small fish?
Yep, for my little guys, so I can separate them out. Because they won't eat them. If anybody sees a picture they want to see, just shout.
Okay, well that did answer one of the questions I was coming up with, is staging your fish sizes so that you have a more continuous propagation, or you can
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd like to set up at least 7 or 8 tanks and so you can separate your breeding pairs. Then you need to separate your females from males, because the males will either kill the female or eat all the babies. So you got to kind of pay attention to that. But if you're just ordering a fish, definitely you probably want to have 2 or 3 generations of sizes coming in. And you want to separate them out until they're, with the tilapia, when they get about that big, then they're pretty safe to throw them with the big guys. But when they're just little 3/4 inchers, they'll eat them right up. $250 pretty quick. Talk about expensive sushi. They'll go right for it. But yeah, definitely if you want to keep a perpetual system, and if you wanted to keep something like with mine going 365 days a year and get bigger, then yes, I'm gonna have to start breeding my fish. And that's a whole another ball game on the side of this that I decided right when I got started that I wanted to tackle this and get the plant side figured out first. And now that I feel like I've got a really good grasp on the plant side, I've been doing a lot of research on breeding fish. And there's a ton out there. And it's a little bit overwhelming, but there's a lot of help out there. And the connection that I have for my fish right now, a guy out of Florida, his name is Edgar. He is excellent about answering emails and questions, and he even has a seminar that I was thinking about flying down and checking out, so that he gives you kind of a lesson on how to set your system up and then how to breed, and he can help supply the different breeds of fish. So you have maybe two males from different families, and then maybe 6 or 7 females, and you can perpetuate pretty well. But it'd be nice to have a friend that has something too, that every now and then you can, every couple of years, you can keep your genetic pool rolling. So that's part of the problem that I'm looking at. If you wanted to start this as a business or have a club of people doing this, it'd be nice to be able to have some type of a fish exchange. Or, hey, Lloyd's growing a ton of fish over here, and he's got too many, and he needs to get rid of some. But in 6 months, he wants to get into tilapia, and he wants some of your, so you can get into a trading system like that is what I kind of envision. Since what the legalities in Montana, as far as we can't sell them to each other. Heck, you're not even always supposed to transport them. And I was like, what are you, crazy? So if I go down with my kid to Petco and buy some goldfish and leave the store, am I in violation? Well, no, it's a hobby. I said, so if I catch a perch on Lake Blanchard out of my buddy's pond, transport it to my house to have it as a pet in my aquaponics tank, isn't that a hobby? And he's like, well, so there's a big gray area there. So I think with a little bit of, just like anything else, I think, that it's been left, that law has been left alone for so long, that if you could go in there intelligently and show them exactly what you're doing, and that's kind of in the process I'm in right now, that maybe something else can be created that, tacked on a law or some type of legislation you can change that if you were an aquaponic grower.
You gotta wait 2 years now.
Right, yes. Oh, I realize that. When I first got into this and thought, boy, I can make some money in this, then the reality is, with any business, it takes time. So
No,
that's why
I'm just talking to the legislature. They're done until
right.
What is?
But that's a good thing, because if you do go in and change some of the legislation, it takes about 2 years to even get the information put together anyway. So now is the time to start. I'm crawling at that level right now. I guess you could say, trying to build some relationship with the Fish and Wildlife, FDA, everybody gets involved, at that point. So that's what, then you start thinking about the simplicity as well. If you have a club that just exchanges fish, then you're legal. Or, as long as we're hobbyists,
I like that.
not selling the fish, or I thought even donate the fish. If you had a commercial operation, donate the fish to the food bank, or take the fish and grind it up and make fertilizer out of it. So there's just, a couple different ways and avenues to get around the law. It's just be nice to work with them on it.